The Harmony's edge came out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kalani system. What Captain Minho saw made him feel sick. Space was full of broken pieces. Metal and debris floated everywhere like the bones of dead ships. Some pieces were still glowing hot from explosions. This had been a battle and someone had lost badly. "Yuki, are you getting any signals from the planet?" Captain Minho asked. "Yes, sir. But they're very weak now. The Kalani are still broadcasting, but barely. I'm also detecting 7 large ships around the planet." "The Drac?" "Must be, sir. They're huge ships, and they're firing weapons at the planet's surface." Dr. Rena looked up from her computer with horror on her face. "Captain, I'm reading massive. Explosions on the planet. They're bombing the cities. I can see the fires from here." Captain Minho stared at the main screen showing the Kalani planet. It was a beautiful world, blue and green like Earth, but now he could see dark clouds and red patches where cities were burning. "Take us closer, but keep us out of range of their weapons," he ordered. "I want to try talking to both sides." As they moved into the inner system, the destruction became more obvious. The Kalani world was covered with smoke and fire. The 7 Drac ships hung in space above the planet like giant predators, their weapons continuously firing down at the surface. "Captain," Yuki said, "I'm getting a transmission from the planet. Someone is trying to talk to us." "Put it on screen." The face that appeared was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The alien was tall and thin, with skin that looked like it was made of crystal. Light moved through their body in beautiful patterns, but the patterns looked sad and desperate. "Unknown vessel," the alien said. "This is Kelanim of the Kalani people. Please, if you have come because of our message, you must help us. The Drac Collective has destroyed our defenses and is now killing our people. Millions have already died." Captain Minho stepped forward so the alien could see him. "This is Captain Minho of the Alliance vessel Harmony's Edge. We received your distress call and came as fast as we could. What is your situation?" The crystal alien's light patterns changed, showing what looked like relief mixed with desperate hope. "You came. We sent our message hoping someone would hear us, but we did not think anyone would actually come to help. Tell me about your defenses. What do you have left to fight with?" Kelanim's light became dimmer. "Captain, we are a peaceful people. We have never fought wars like this before. Our ships were made for exploring space and trading with other worlds, not for fighting. The few ships we had were destroyed in the first attack hours ago. How many of your people are still alive?" "On the planet, maybe 200 million. But the Drac ships attack our cities every few hours. Each time they attack, thousands more die." Captain Minho felt angry and helpless at the same time. 200 million people, and only his small science ship stood between them and complete destruction. "Kelanim," he said, "my ship is not built for war either. We have only basic weapons, but we're going to find a way to help you, Commander." Tay, who was the ship's military advisor, stepped up beside Captain Minho. "Sir, we need to contact Alliance Command immediately. This is way beyond what one ship can handle." Captain Minho nodded. "Yuki, send an emergency message to Alliance headquarters. Tell them we need military assistance here as fast as possible." But even as he gave the order, Captain Minho knew it wouldn't be fast enough. Alliance Command was thousands of light years away. Even if they sent help immediately, it would take weeks to get here. The Kalani didn't have weeks. Suddenly, warning alarms started ringing throughout the ship. "Captain," the officer watching the sensors called out, "3 of the Drac ships are moving toward us. They're big, sir. Much bigger than us." On the screen, Kelanim's light patterns became frantic. "Captain, you must run. Those ships are too powerful. They will destroy you." "We're not running," Captain Minho said firmly. A new voice suddenly came through the communication system. It was harsh and cold, translated from the Drac language by the ship's computer. "Unknown vessel, this is General Kraz of the Drac Collective. You are in claimed territory. State your business here or be destroyed." Captain Minho straightened his shoulders. "This is Captain Minho of the Galactic Alliance ship Harmony's Edge. We are responding to a distress call from the Kalani people." There was a pause before the Drac general replied. His voice carried ugly amusement. "The Galactic Alliance? We know about your organization. weak species hiding behind treaties and meetings. The Kalani belong to the Drac Collective now. Leave or die. The Kalani are free people, Captain Minho said firmly. They have the right to ask for help. They had rights. Now they are conquered. This is your final warning, Alliance ship. The communication ended. The 3 Drac ships continued moving toward them. Sir, Commander Tay said urgently, those ships have enough firepower to destroy us easily. We need to make a decision. Fight, run, or try to negotiate. Captain Minho looked at the tactical display showing the Drac ships. They were like floating cities covered with weapons. His little science ship would last maybe minutes against one of them, let alone 3. Captain, Dr. Rena said suddenly, there might be another option. What if we call for help from the human military directly? The Colonial Defense Fleet? Commander Tay shook his head. They're focused on protecting human colonies. This is alien territory. But humans are Alliance members, Dr. Rena said. The Alliance Charter says member species should help protect each other from attacks. Captain Minho thought about it. The human military was different from other Alliance forces. Humans came from what other aliens called a deathworld, a planet so dangerous that everything on it was tough and hard to kill. But most aliens didn't know much about human military strength because humans were still new to the galaxy. Do it, Captain Minho decided. Send an emergency message directly to Earth's Colonial Defense Command. Tell them everything we know about the Drac and what they're doing here. Sir, Yuki said nervously, the Drac ships will reach us in 15 minutes. Then we stall for time, Captain Minho said. He opened a channel to Kelanim on the planet. Can your people get to safe places? Underground shelters? Some already have, but our cities were not built for war. We have some shelters, but not enough for everyone. Get as many people to safety as you can. Help is coming. What help? Kelanim asked desperately. Your ship cannot fight 7 Drac vessels. Captain Minho looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the light of distant suns, was Earth. A world that had created people tough enough to survive anything. If anyone could help the Kalani, it would be the humans. Reinforcements are coming, he said, hoping he was right. Just hold on. The message to Earth's military was sent with the highest priority code. It included everything they knew about the Drac ships, their weapons, and their tactics. It also included images of the burning Kalani cities and the desperate pleas for help from Kelanim. As the Drac ships moved closer, Captain Minho ordered his crew to prepare for combat. They all knew it was probably hopeless. One small science ship against 3 massive warships was not a fair fight. But they were not giving up. The Kalani had called out into the darkness for help, and someone had answered. Even if it cost them their lives, they would not abandon these people to the Drac. Captain, Yuki said quietly, I'm getting a response from Earth. Already? Yes, sir. It's from someone called Admiral Hyun at Luna Command. He says help is on the way. Captain Minho felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the Kalani would survive this after all. On the planet below, Kelanim and millions of other Kalani waited in their shelters, listening to the sounds of explosions above them. They had sent their cry for help into space, hoping someone would care enough to answer. Now they could only wait and hope that their strange new friends from the stars would somehow find a way to save them. 1 week after the Great Battle, the Kalani world was healing. The human fleet remained in orbit, not as conquerors but as protectors, helping to rebuild what the Drac had destroyed. Captain Wan stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve, watching, as human and Kalani workers cooperated to repair damaged cities. The communication system chimed with an incoming message from Alliance Central Command. When the holographic display activated, it showed the 5-member ruling council of the Galactic Alliance, representing the most powerful species in known space. Captain Wan, the Altarian Secretary General, began. We have received detailed reports about your engagement with the Drac Collective. The results are unprecedented. Captain Wan maintained his calm expression. We stopped an aggressive force from destroying a peaceful civilization, sir. The Drac were warned multiple times to cease their attacks. The Vegan council member leaned forward, his expression troubled. Captain, in 7 days your species destroyed over 80 Drac vessels. Some of our military experts are questioning how this was possible. And what conclusions have they reached? They're wondering if humanity represents a new threat to galactic stability. Before Captain Wan could respond, Admiral Hyun's image appeared on a split screen from Earth's Luna Command. Council members, I believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about human intentions. The Centaurian representative spoke carefully. Admiral, your species has demonstrated military capabilities that exceed our most optimistic estimates. Where did these abilities come from? Admiral Hyun was quiet for a moment, choosing his words with care. Council members, when humanity joined the Alliance 50 years ago, we discovered something amazing. Most species in the galaxy come from worlds you call garden worlds, peaceful places with stable climates and few natural dangers. He gestured to a display showing Earth from space. Earth is not a garden world. It's classified as a Class 12 deathworld, where every day is a struggle against natural disasters, extreme weather, dangerous wildlife, and scarce resources. We didn't develop our military strength to threaten others. We developed it to survive. Suddenly, Kelanim's crystalline form appeared on the transmission, their light patterns showing intense emotion. Council members, I must speak for my people. 7 days ago, we were hours from complete extinction. We sent a desperate message hoping someone would care enough to help us. The council listened as Kelanim continued. The humans came not because they were required to, but because they chose to. They risked everything to save people they had never met. They fought against impossible odds to protect strangers. How can you call this a threat? Captain Minho of the Harmony's Edge also joined the transmission. Council members, I've served in the Alliance for 15 years. I've never seen any species fight with such dedication to protect innocent life. The humans didn't conquer the Kalani world. They saved it. The council members conferred privately for several minutes before responding. The Secretary General spoke first. Admiral Hyun, we acknowledge that your actions saved the Kalani people from extinction. However, your demonstration of military power has created concerns about the balance of power in the galaxy. I understand your concerns, Admiral Hyun replied calmly. But let me ask you this. In 50 years of Alliance membership, has humanity ever threatened another member species? Have we ever used our strength to intimidate or conquer anyone? The Centaurian council member admitted, no, you have not. But you also concealed the true extent of your capabilities, because we hoped we would never need to reveal them. Humans prefer peace, council members, but when we see genocide being committed against innocent people, we cannot stand by and do nothing. Dr. Gina appeared beside Admiral Hyun on the transmission. If I may, council members, there's something you need to understand about human psychology. We don't fight because we enjoy violence. We fight because we've learned that sometimes violence is the only way to stop greater violence. She activated a display showing the Drac expansion pattern. The Drac Collective was systematically destroying peaceful civilizations. Intelligence indicated they planned to attack Alliance territory next. Someone had to stop them, and it had to be done quickly and decisively. The Andromedan representative studied the data. Your projections showed they would attack 3 Alliance worlds within the next month. At minimum, Dr. Gina confirmed, the Kalani were just the beginning of a much larger campaign. Engineer Kwan, granted permission to speak from the Iron Resolve, addressed the council. Respected council members, I've worked on human military vessels for 8 years. Every system, every weapon, every defensive measure has one purpose: protecting. People who cannot protect themselves. We don't build tools of conquest, we build tools of defense. The council deliberated for over an hour before reaching their decision. The Secretary General returned to address Admiral Hyun directly. Admiral, the Alliance Council has concluded that humanity acted within Alliance law to protect a member species from unlawful aggression. We also acknowledge that without your intervention, the Drac threat would have continued expanding into Alliance territory. Admiral Hyun waited for the complete judgment. However, the galaxy needs to understand what happened here. Will you address the full Alliance Assembly and explain human capabilities and intentions? I would be honored to do so. 3 weeks later, Admiral Hyun stood before the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Alliance. The enormous chamber contained representatives from over 200 species, all watching the human admiral with mixtures of curiosity, respect, and concern. Fellow members of the Alliance, Admiral Hyun began, I stand before you today not as a conqueror, but as someone who has learned hard truths about survival in a dangerous universe. He activated a holographic display showing Earth in all its dangerous beauty. This is Earth. To many of you, it might look like a pleasant world, but Earth experiences ice ages lasting millennia, storms that devastate continents, earthquakes that reshape geography, and volcanoes that can alter global climate. The display changed to show Earth's wildlife and natural disasters. Our world taught us that survival requires strength, intelligence, and the willingness to fight when necessary. But it also taught us something else. Those with strength have a responsibility to protect those without it. He looked around the chamber, making contact with representatives from dozens of species. Humanity concealed our military capabilities because we hoped they would never be needed. We joined the Alliance because we believed in its principles of peace, cooperation, and mutual protection. But when the Drac began murdering innocent civilians, those principles demanded action. The Kalani delegation rose, their crystalline forms glowing with gratitude. Kayla Nim spoke for all of them. The humans asked for nothing in return for saving our species. They stayed to help us rebuild. They treated us as equals and friends. This is not the behavior of conquerors. Admiral Hyun nodded respectfully before continuing. I want to make humanity's position absolutely clear to every species in this chamber. We have no interest in conquest or domination. We seek no tribute or territory, but we will not allow genocide to occur while we have the power to stop it. He paused, letting the words carry throughout the chamber. The Drac learned that there are consequences for attacking innocent people. Any other species that chooses the path of aggression will learn the same lesson. The Secretary General asked the question that everyone was thinking. Admiral Hyun, what role do you see for humanity in the Alliance going forward? Admiral Hyun's answer would be remembered and quoted for generations. We will be what we have always been, guardians. The galaxy is vast and contains many peaceful species who simply want to live their lives in safety. When predators threaten them, they will find Earth's children standing in their way. The Assembly voted overwhelmingly to formally thank humanity for saving the Kalani and to establish the Terran Response Fleet as the Alliance's primary rapid intervention force. As Admiral Hyun left the Assembly chamber, he was approached by representatives from dozens of species requesting defense agreements. Word had spread throughout the galaxy. There was a new power among the stars, one that fought not for conquest but for justice. 6 months later, Captain Wan stood on the observation deck of a new space station orbiting the Kalani world. It served as headquarters for the Terran Response Fleet's operations in this sector, a symbol that the galaxy's peaceful species were no longer defenseless. Yuki, who had been promoted to Director of Communications for the new base, joined him at the viewing window. Captain, we're receiving requests for assistance from 23 different systems. How do we respond to them all? Captain Wan watched human and alien workers building the station together, former enemies now cooperating to create something better. The same way we always have, Yuki. We protect those who need protection, even if it means fighting battles across the entire galaxy. Captain Wan smiled, thinking of the blue and green world that had created his people. That's what Guardians do. We stand watch so others can sleep peacefully. In the depths of space, the message had spread to every civilization. The galaxy had new protectors. They came from a world that had forged them in constant struggle, taught them to survive against any odds, and given them the strength to face any darkness. The humans had awakened, and the defeat of General Kroz's fleet was just the beginning. As his damaged ships limped away from the Kalani system, long-range sensors detected something that made Captain Wan's blood run cold. Captain, Lieutenant Sola reported from her tactical station. I'm reading massive hyperspace signatures approaching our position. Multiple contacts, estimated 70 to 80 vessels. Captain Juan studied the sensor data with his usual calm expression. The approaching fleet was nearly twice the size of his own, and intelligence reports suggested these were frontline Drac warships, not the occupation force they had just defeated. Time to arrival? 3 hours, sir. Captain Juan activated his fleet communication system. All ships, this is flagship. We have a larger Drac force inbound. Prepare for extended combat operations. Throughout the human fleet, crews began final preparations for what would be the largest space battle in human history. In the engine rooms, engineers like Quan made last-minute adjustments to power systems that had already been pushed hard during the first battle. Sir, Quan reported to his captain, I can boost power output by another 20%, but it will stress the core systems. Do it, Captain Juan replied. We're going to need every advantage we can get. On the planet below, the Kalani watched with growing fear as their rescuers prepared for another battle. Kayla Nim stood in the rebuilt communication center, speaking directly with Captain Juan. Captain, you have already saved our world once. Perhaps you should withdraw before this larger fleet arrives. We cannot ask you to sacrifice your people for us. Captain Juan's response was immediate. Kayla Nim, we didn't come here to run away when things get difficult. We came to make sure you're safe, and that's exactly what we're going to do. But privately, Captain Juan knew this would be their greatest challenge yet. His tactical computer had analyzed the approaching force, and the numbers were not encouraging. The Drac were bringing their best ships and most experienced commanders. Lieutenant Sola, he said, I need a battle plan that accounts for our numerical disadvantage. Sola had been studying Drac tactics since the first engagement. She understood something important. The enemy relied on intimidation and overwhelming force, but they were not creative fighters. Sir, I recommend we use the asteroid field at the edge of the system. Force them to fight in an environment that favors speed over size. Explain. The Drac build their ships to look scary and hit hard, but they're not agile. If we can draw them into the asteroid field, we can use hit-and-run tactics, make them fight our kind of battle instead of theirs. Captain Juan studied the tactical display showing the system's layout. The asteroid field was dense and dangerous, full of rocks the size of mountains. Most commanders would avoid it, seeing only the risks, but humans had learned to thrive in dangerous environments. Approved. Send the plan to all ships. We make our stand in the asteroids. When the main Drac fleet arrived, it was led by War Commander Thek, one of their most successful generals. His flagship alone was larger than 5 human vessels combined, and his reputation for ruthless efficiency was known throughout the galaxy. Scan complete, his tactical officer reported. 47 enemy vessels, same as the intelligence reports. They appear to be moving toward the asteroid field. Thek studied the display with satisfaction. They're running. Typical coward behavior. All ships pursue and destroy them. What War Commander Thek didn't understand was that the humans weren't running, they were hunting. As the massive Drac fleet entered the asteroid field, they found themselves in an environment unlike anything they had trained for. The tight formations that worked well in open space became dangerous liabilities among the floating rocks. All ships, reduce speed, Thek ordered as his vessels began to spread out to avoid collisions. That was exactly what the humans had been waiting for. Now, Captain Juan said quietly. The asteroid field suddenly erupted with weapons fire from every direction. Human ships that had been hiding in the shadows of large rocks opened fire simultaneously, creating a crossfire that caught the Drac formation completely off guard. Contact left. Contact right. They're everywhere, Thek's tactical officer shouted, as enemy fire came from angles that should have been impossible. The humans fought like nothing the Drac had ever encountered. They used the asteroids as shields, timing their attacks to coincide with the natural movement of the rocks. They appeared from hiding spots, struck hard, and vanished again before return fire could be effective. Sir, Lieutenant Sola reported from the Iron Resolve. Enemy formation is fragmenting. They can't support each other effectively in this environment. Confirmed, Engineer Kwan added from the engine room. We're maintaining full combat speed while their big ships have to crawl through the rocks. What the Drak were experiencing was something completely outside their military doctrine. They had always fought in open space, using their superior size and firepower to overwhelm enemies. But in the asteroid field, size became a weakness instead of a strength. Human ships danced between the rocks like they had been born there, using every shadow and gravitational anomaly as a tactical advantage. They fought with the instincts of predators who had learned to survive in Earth's most dangerous environments. War Commander, one of his officers reported with growing panic. We've lost 15 ships and haven't destroyed a single enemy vessel. Thek stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His mighty fleet was being picked apart by an enemy that refused to fight a conventional battle. All ships, full acceleration, get us out of this field and force them into open combat. But the humans had anticipated this move. As the Drak ships tried to escape the asteroids, they found themselves running into carefully prepared ambush points where multiple human vessels waited with weapons ready. The battle that followed lasted 8 hours. It was not the quick, decisive engagement that Drak doctrine called for, but a grinding, exhausting fight that tested every system and every crew member on both sides. Captain Wan commanded from the bridge of the Iron Resolve with the same calm professionalism he had shown from the beginning. But inside, he felt the weight of responsibility for his entire fleet. Captain, his communications officer reported, we're getting damage reports from several ships. The Guardian's Promise has lost main engines, and the Defiant Star is down to half power. Acknowledged. Route them to the repair positions behind Asteroid Cluster 7. Even damaged, the human ships continued fighting. Their crews had been trained to keep their vessels operational even under the worst conditions, because humans had learned that sometimes the only choice was to keep fighting or die. The Drak, meanwhile, found their larger ships increasingly difficult to maneuver in the restricted environment. Several had suffered collision damage from asteroids, and their traditional tactics were proving useless against an enemy that refused to cooperate. War Commander, his tactical officer said desperately, we're down to 38 functional ships. The humans are using the field like it's their home territory. Thek was beginning to understand something terrifying. These humans were better at fighting in difficult conditions than his own forces were. They seemed to thrive in the chaos and danger that was crippling his fleet. Signal retreat, he said finally. All ships withdraw to open space. But Captain Wan had one more surprise waiting. Lieutenant Sola, execute closing trap. The human ships that had been scattered throughout the asteroid field suddenly converged on the retreating Drak vessels. Instead of allowing an orderly withdrawal, they turned the retreat into a running battle that cost the Drak another dozen ships. When the surviving Drak fleet finally escaped to open space, War Commander Thek stared at his losses in shocked silence. His force had been reduced to less than 20 functional vessels, while the humans had lost only 3 ships. How is this possible? He whispered. His tactical officer had no answer. The humans had fought like nothing in the Drak database. They were creative, adaptive, and absolutely relentless in protecting something they cared about. Captain Wan received the Drak surrender request an hour later. The terms were simple: immediate withdrawal from all Alliance territory and a guarantee never to attack peaceful species again. As the battered remnants of the Drak fleet jumped to hyperspace, Captain Wan opened a channel to the planet below. Kayla Nim, this is Captain Wan. The threat has been eliminated. Your world is safe. The crystalline alien's response was filled with joy and amazement. Captain, you have done something we thought impossible. You defeated the most powerful military force in this region of space. We had good motivation, Captain Wan replied. Your people deserved better than what the Drak were giving them. Word of the battle spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The Drak collective, which had seemed unstoppable, had been crushed by a human fleet that most species had never heard of. The galaxy was beginning to understand that Earth's children were not just another peaceful species. They were something far more dangerous. Warriors who had been forged in the crucible of the most hostile world known to science. and they had chosen to use their strength to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Admiral Hyun stood in the main control room at Luna Base, Earth's biggest military headquarters. The urgent message from Captain Minho had reached him 30 minutes ago, and the base was already busy with activity. On the big screen, he watched the terrible images from the Kalani world. Cities on fire, people running for their lives, massive alien ships destroying everything they could see. "Give me the full report," Admiral Hyun said to Dr. Gina, his chief military planner. Dr. Gina was a small woman with a sharp mind. She had studied alien warfare for years, always preparing for the day when Earth might need to fight in space. "The Drac Collective appears to be an expanding empire," she said, reading from her datapad. "Our intelligence shows they've conquered 12 star systems in the past 5 years. They use overwhelming force and target civilians to break resistance quickly. What about their ships? Large, heavily armed vessels designed for destroying planets. They're built like flying fortresses, very strong, but not very fast. They rely on fear and raw power instead of clever tactics." Admiral Hyun nodded. It was the kind of enemy humans understood well. Throughout Earth's history, they had fought bullies who thought being big and mean was enough to win wars. "Sir," Colonel Park, the communications officer, spoke up. "We've got more information from Alliance Command. The Drac have sent threatening messages to 3 other systems. If the Kalani fall, they'll probably attack Alliance worlds next." Admiral Hyun walked to the display showing a map of local space. The Kalani system was marked in red, with yellow marks showing other threatened worlds. If the Drac won here, they would have a clear path to attack dozens of peaceful planets. "Dr. Gina," he said without turning around, "in your professional opinion, should we contain this threat or eliminate it completely?" Dr. Gina understood what he was asking. Contain meant stop the Drac from expanding further. Eliminate meant make sure they could never threaten anyone again. "Sir, looking at their pattern of expansion and their treatment of civilians, I recommend complete elimination. They're not interested in peace talks or sharing territory. They only understand strength." Admiral Hyun finally turned to face his staff. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but everyone in the room knew he had made an important decision. "Begin fleet mobilization. I want the Terran response fleet ready to launch within 4 hours." The control room went completely silent. The Terran response fleet was humanity's most powerful military force, but it had never been used in real combat. Most aliens didn't even know it existed. "Sir," Colonel Park said carefully, "don't we need permission from Alliance Command first? Military action is supposed to be voted on by multiple member species. Colonel, the Alliance Charter has an emergency clause. When multiple member worlds are under immediate threat, any member species can take defensive action first and get approval later. But sir, the other Alliance species might think we're being aggressive. We've only been members for 50 years. They still don't completely trust us." Admiral Hyun looked at the burning cities on the screen. Innocent people dying while politicians argued about proper procedures. "They'll understand after this," he said simply. Dr. Gina stepped forward. "Admiral, there's something else to consider. The Drac don't know about human military capabilities. Most aliens still think we're just another peaceful species that joined the Alliance for protection." Admiral Hyun almost smiled. When humans first made contact with aliens, they had been amazed to learn that most other species came from garden worlds, planets with nice weather and no dangerous animals. The aliens, meanwhile, had been shocked to learn that humans came from a death world, where everything was trying to kill them. But what the aliens didn't understand was how living on such a dangerous planet had shaped human thinking about warfare. While other species saw war as a last resort, humans had learned it as a survival skill. "Captain Wan," Admiral Hyun called to a tall man standing near the tactical displays. Captain Wan stepped forward. He was the commander of the flagship Iron Resolve and one of the most experienced combat officers in the human fleet. "Yes, sir? How long to reach the Kalani system?" 14 hours at maximum hyperspace speed, sir." "Good. I want you to take the fleet and solve this problem." Captain Wan nodded, but then asked, "Rules of engagement, sir?" Admiral Hyun thought about the question. Rules of engagement determined how the battle would be fought. Limited rules meant trying to avoid casualties. Full engagement meant winning at any cost. Captain, an entire species is being murdered while we talk. One of our own ships is in danger trying to protect them. What do you think the rules should be? Captain Wan's face became hard. Complete engagement, sir. Stop the threat permanently. Agreed. Take the fleet and make sure the Drac Collective never hurts anyone again. As Captain Wan left to prepare his ship, Dr. Gina approached Admiral Hyun. Sir, are you sure about revealing our full military strength? Once we do this, everything changes. The other Alliance species will know what humans are really capable of. Admiral Hyun watched the tactical display as ships began moving throughout the solar system. The Terran response fleet was coming together, vessels that had been built in, secret over the past 20 years, designed for exactly this kind of threat. Dr. Gina, do you know why we joined the Galactic Alliance? To gain access to advanced technology and establish trade relationships? That was part of it. But the real reason was simpler. For the first time in human history, we found out we weren't alone. We discovered species that shared our values of peace, exploration, and helping others. He turned to look at her. The Kalani are one of those species. They reached out for help, believing someone would care. We're going to prove they were right. The next few hours were intense. Ships that had been hidden throughout the outer solar system began moving toward the jump point. The Iron Resolve was joined by vessels with names like Thunder of Earth, Defiant, Star and Guardian's Promise. Each ship was a work of art, human engineering at its finest. They carried weapons that could crack moons and shields that could withstand the heat of stars. More importantly, they carried crews who understood exactly what they were fighting for. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Admiral Hyun received one more message from Captain Minho. The Harmony's Edge was still alive, but just barely. They had managed to avoid direct fighting with the Drac fleet, but time was running out. Admiral, the message said, the Kalani are running out of places to hide. The Drac are destroying everything on the planet's surface. If help doesn't come soon, there won't be anyone left to save. Admiral Hyun opened the fleet-wide communication channel. 47 ships were now ready to jump, their crews waiting for orders. This is Admiral Hyun to all ships of the Terran Response Fleet. Today, the galaxy will learn something important about humanity. We are not the peaceful traders that many believe us to be. We are survivors from a world that taught us to never give up when facing impossible odds. He paused, looking out at the stars. The Kalani sent a message into space, hoping someone would help them. But this isn't just about saving one species. This is about showing the galaxy that there are people willing to stand up to bullies no matter how big they are. The fleet acknowledgements came back quickly. Every ship was ready. The Drac Collective thinks size and fear are enough to win wars. They're about to learn why that thinking is wrong. Fleet, jump to hyperspace. Time to show them what Earth's children can do. One by one, the ships of the Terran Response Fleet disappeared into hyperspace, racing toward a battle that would change the galaxy forever. Behind them, Earth continued. Its ancient rotation, a blue and green world that had created something new among the stars. Protectors who would fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. The cavalry was coming. Space around the Kalani world shimmered and twisted as the human fleet came out of hyperspace. One by one, 47 warships appeared in perfect formation, their hulls dark against the stars. General Kraz stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. What species is this? Those ships are not in our database. His weapons officer was frantically scanning the new arrivals. Unknown design, General, but the power readings are massive. These are definitely military vessels. Kraz felt something he rarely experienced: uncertainty. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen ships like these. They looked predatory, like they had been designed by people who understood war at its most basic level. Open communications, he ordered. On the Harmony's Edge, Captain Minho and his crew watched the human fleet take position with amazement. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, clearly built for one purpose: fighting wars and winning them. Yuki, Captain Minho said, "Are you getting anything from the fleet?" "Yes, sir. The flagship is calling us now." The face that appeared on the screen was calm and professional. Captain Wan looked like exactly what he was, a warrior who had trained his entire life for this moment. Captain Minho, this is Captain Wan of the Terran Response Fleet. We got your message. What's the current situation? Captain Minho felt relief wash over him. Captain Wan, the Drak have 7 ships in orbit around the planet. They've been bombing the surface for hours. Millions of Kalani are dead or hiding underground. Understood. Move your ship to a safe distance. We'll handle things from here. On the planet below, Kelanim huddled with other Kalani leaders in their underground command center. They had lost so many cities, so many people. But now, incredibly, new ships had arrived. Who are they? Another Kalani asked, watching the tactical displays. The humans from that small ship said help was coming, Kelanim replied. These must be their military forces. But there are only 47 ships. The Drak have 7, and each one is enormous. General Kraz was thinking the same thing. His ships were some of the largest in the galaxy, designed to intimidate enemies into surrendering without a fight. These new human vessels were smaller, but something about them made him nervous. Unknown fleet, he broadcast. This is General Kraz of the Drak Collective. You are in claimed territory. Identify yourselves and leave immediately. The response came from Captain Wan, and his voice carried an edge that made even the experienced Drak general pause. This is Captain Wan of the Terran Response Fleet. We are here to stop your attack on the Kalani people. You have 30 seconds to cease fire and withdraw from this system. General Kraz laughed, but it sounded forced. Terran, we have never heard of this species. You are outnumbered, aliens. Each of my ships is 3 times the size of yours. Leave now, or be destroyed. General, Captain Wan replied, his voice perfectly calm. You have committed acts of war against a peaceful species. The Terran Response Fleet is authorized to use any force necessary to stop you. This is your only warning. Kraz ended the communication and turned to his officers. All ships battle formation. Let's show these Terrans what happens when they interfere with the Drak Collective. What happened next would be studied in military schools across the galaxy for the next 100 years. The Drak ships opened fire first, sending massive energy beams toward the human fleet. But the human ships moved like nothing the Drak had ever seen. Instead of the slow, predictable movements of normal capital ships, they twisted and rolled through space with impossible grace. Lieutenant Sola, the tactical officer on the Iron Resolve, watched her display with satisfaction. Their formation is too rigid, she reported to Captain Wan. They're fighting like ground troops, not space forces. Begin attack pattern Alpha, Captain Wan ordered. The human fleet suddenly split apart, like a school of fish avoiding a predator. Instead of meeting the Drak in a straight fight, they attacked from 12 different directions at once, using the space around the planet as a 3-dimensional battlefield. The Drak ships, built for overwhelming frontal attacks, found themselves confused and unable to support each other effectively. The humans seemed to be everywhere at once, striking at weak points and disappearing before return fire could be effective. How are they moving like that? General Kraz demanded as he watched one of his ships take damage from 3 different human vessels attacking simultaneously. I don't understand it, General. Those are capital ships, but they're maneuvering like fighters. What the Drak didn't know was that human ships had been designed by people who learned to survive on the most dangerous planet in the known galaxy. Earth had taught its children to be adaptable, creative, and absolutely ruthless when protecting something important. Engineer Kwan, deep in the Iron Resolve, monitored the ship's systems as they pushed beyond normal limits. All systems green, he reported to Captain Wan. We can maintain this performance indefinitely. The human ships had been built with backup systems that other species considered excessive. They were designed to keep fighting even when badly damaged, because humans had learned that sometimes the only choice was to win or die. The battle continued for 90 minutes. One by one, the massive Drak vessels found themselves outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. The humans fought with a coordination and tactical brilliance that the Drak had never encountered. But it wasn't just the ships or the tactics, it was the crews. Every human warrior understood exactly why they were here. and they fought with the determination of people who had never learned to quit. General Kraz watched in growing horror as his invincible fleet was systematically destroyed. 3 of his ships were already dead in space, their weapons and engines disabled by precise human attacks. "General," his communications officer said desperately, "Ship 4 is requesting permission to surrender. Their weapons are destroyed and they're venting atmosphere." Kraz stared at the tactical display. His fleet, which had conquered 12 worlds, was being beaten by humans he had never heard of before. "How is this possible?" he whispered. Captain Wan's voice came over the communication system, calm and professional. "General Kraz, your fleet is defeated. Order your remaining ships to surrender and we'll allow you to leave this system. And, if I refuse, then we'll destroy every ship you have and let you explain to your superiors how you lost an entire fleet to a species you'd never heard of." Kraz looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him, waiting for orders. Outside, the human ships continued their deadly dance around his remaining vessels. "All Drac ships," he said quietly, "cease fire and prepare to surrender." The space battle ended as suddenly as it had begun. The surviving Drac vessels, battered and broken, hung motionless in space while the human fleet maintained perfect formation around them. Captain Wan opened a channel to the planet below. "Kelanim, this is the Terran response fleet. The immediate threat has been neutralized. Your people are safe." The crystalline alien's light patterns showed pure joy and relief. "Captain Wan, how can we ever thank you? You saved our entire species." "No thanks necessary," Captain Wan replied. "We just did what anyone should do when innocent people are in danger." On the Harmony's edge, Captain Minho watched the aftermath with amazement. In less than 2 hours, the human fleet had completely defeated a force that had seemed impossible to beat. "Yuki," he said quietly, "I think we just learned something important about our human friends." "What's that, sir?" "They're much more dangerous than they look." As the Drac survivors prepared to leave the system, word began spreading through the galaxy's communication networks. The Drac Collective, which had seemed unstoppable, had been defeated by a human fleet that most species had never heard of. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth's children were not the peaceful traitors they appeared to be. They were something much more dangerous, protectors who would fight anyone, anywhere to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. The age of human protection had begun. The space around the ship Harmony's edge was quiet and empty. Inside the communication room, Yuki sat at her desk looking at the green lights on her screen. She had been doing this job for 3 years now. Most days were boring. She listened to messages from other ships and planets, trade talk, weather reports, nothing exciting. But today was different. A strange sound came through her headphones. It was weak and far away, but it had a pattern. Yuki stopped what she was doing and listened more carefully. The sound came again, and again. "Computer, record this signal," she said quickly. The ship's computer began recording the strange sounds. Yuki played them back several times. There was definitely a pattern there. Someone was trying to talk. "Computer, where is this signal coming from?" "Signal origin is 47 light-years away. Unknown source." Yuki's heart started beating faster. Unknown source meant this was not from any planet or species they knew about. In 3 years of work, she had never heard anything like this. She called Captain Minho right away. He was a tall man with kind eyes who always listened when his crew had something important to say. "What do you have for me, Yuki?" Captain Minho asked as he walked into the communication room. "Sir, I'm getting a signal from somewhere we've never heard from before. It's weak, but it has patterns, mathematical patterns." Captain Minho looked at the screen showing the signal data. "Mathematical patterns means intelligence. Someone is trying to talk to us." Dr. Rena came into the room behind the captain. She was the ship's expert on languages and first contact with new aliens. Her job was to figure out what new species were trying to say. "Play the signal again," Dr. Rena said, sitting down at another computer. The strange sounds filled the room. They were like music, but sad music. Urgent music. Dr. Rena closed her eyes and listened carefully. "These are definitely mathematical sequences," she said after several minutes. Prime numbers, geometric patterns. This is how intelligent species try to prove they are intelligent to strangers. But there's something else, Dr. Rena continued. The way it repeats, the timing. This doesn't sound like a greeting. This sounds like... Like what? Captain Minho asked, like a cry for help. The three humans looked at each other. A cry for help from an unknown species was a big deal. The Galactic Alliance had rules about this kind of thing. They were supposed to report it immediately and wait for instructions. Can you figure out where exactly it's coming from? Captain Minho asked Yuki. Yuki worked at her computer for several minutes. Yes, sir. It's coming from a star system about 47 light-years from here. The signal is very weak, like whoever is sending it doesn't have much power left. Captain Minho thought about this. 47 light-years was far, but not too far for their ship. They could get there in less than a day if they traveled at maximum speed. Sir, Dr. Rena said quietly, that star system is in the restricted zone. The restricted zone was an area of space that the Galactic Alliance had marked as off-limits. Not because it was dangerous, but because it was unexplored. The Alliance had strict rules about meeting new alien species. It had to be done carefully, with lots of planning and the right people. Keep working on translating that signal, Captain Minho told Dr. Rena. I want to know what they're saying. For the next few hours, Dr. Rena and the ship's computers worked on the alien message. Slowly, words began to appear on the screen. At first, they didn't make much sense, but gradually a picture began to form. Help. Dying. Attack, please. The words appeared one by one as the computer figured out the alien language. Each new word made the situation clearer and more frightening. Captain, Dr. Rena called out excitedly. I'm getting more of the message now. They call themselves the Kalani. They're under attack by someone called the Drac Collective. More words appeared. Cities burning, millions dead, no weapons. Please help us. Captain Minho felt sick to his stomach. Somewhere out there, an entire planet of people was being destroyed, and they were calling out to anyone who would listen. How long to reach their system at maximum speed? He asked his navigation officer through the communication system. 18 hours, sir. 18 hours. In 18 hours, how many more of these Kalani people would die? Sir, Dr. Rena said, I'm getting more of their message. The attackers, this Drac Collective, they're not just attacking the Kalani. They're planning to attack other systems too. Which systems? I'm not sure yet, but some of the references look like they might be Alliance territory. Captain Minho walked to the big window that looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying. They had sent a message into the darkness, hoping someone would care enough to help them. The Alliance rules said he should report this and wait for orders. But that could take days or weeks. These people didn't have days or weeks. But his ship was not a warship. The Harmony's Edge was built for science, not fighting. They had basic weapons to protect themselves from pirates, but nothing that could fight a real military force. Captain, Yuki said urgently, the signal is getting weaker. I think their equipment is being damaged, or their cities are being destroyed, Dr. Rena added quietly. Just then, another signal came through the communication system. This one was much stronger and much more threatening. The computer translated it quickly. To any ship receiving this message, the Kalani system now belongs to the Drac Collective. Any vessel entering this system will be destroyed. This is your only warning. The communication room went silent. The Kalani were still calling for help, but now someone else was, warning everyone to stay away. They're jamming the Kalani signal, Yuki said, watching her instruments. That's why it's getting weaker. They're trying to stop anyone from hearing the call for help. Captain Minho made his decision. Set course for the Kalani system, maximum speed. Sir, Dr. Rena said carefully, shouldn't we contact Alliance Command first? We'll send them a message on the way, but I'm not going to sit here and listen to an entire species get murdered while we wait for permission to help them. The Harmony's Edge turned toward the Kalani system and began accelerating to its maximum speed. Behind them, they sent a message to Alliance Command explaining the situation and asking for backup. But Captain Minho knew that backup would take too long. Whatever they were going to do, they would have to do it alone. "Yuki," he said, "keep monitoring that signal. As long as the Kalani are still broadcasting, some of them are still alive." "Yes, sir." "Dr. Rena, start preparing first contact protocols. If we're going to meet these people, we need to be ready." "What about the Drac Collective?" Dr. Rena asked. "What do we do if they try to stop us?" Captain Minho looked back at the stars racing by outside the window. "We'll figure that out when we get there. Right now, all that matters is getting to the Kalani before it's too late." The ship raced through space toward the unknown system. In the communication room, the weak signal from the Kalani continued to play softly through the speakers. It was a sound of desperate hope, calling out across the vast emptiness of space, trusting that somewhere someone would care enough to answer. 17 hours to go.